All right, so today's video, it's gonna be a little bit of a different one. I've got my wife, Trish, here, and we thought it'd be a cool idea for her to ask me some questions about my journey being in the HVAC industry. So this is what we're doing today. What's up, babe?
Hey. This is exciting.
Absolutely.
How's your morning been?
Busy setting up this. What do you guys think, first of all? This is new. I wanted to have a different setup where we could sit down and have these kind of raw conversations and maybe turn into a podcast. We've been talking about that.
Who knows, maybe. It looks good.
So anyway, that's what I've been doing this morning. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this setup so far. I think it's pretty cool.
For sure. All right, babe. Here we go. First question.
Okay.
How did you get started in the HVAC industry?
So I was 17 and I technically dropped out of high school and I got my GED, and I had a friend of mine that was working for a general contractor, and he needed someone to come on board to help out. With that general contractor, we were doing all types of stuff, what they would call a punch list.
Oh.
So when the house is being almost complete, we would go through and fix little things that needed to be fixed. We would do landscaping, and then on top of that, we actually did all of the HVAC. So he was licensed to do that. He taught us how to do the duct work, install the equipment. He charged the systems up. So we did, we didn't do every detail of it, but it got my feet wet.
Yeah, so you were doing other things.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
At first it was cool because we were doing, a lot of different tasks, but I realized the HVAC side of the work, I was enjoying that. I liked it. So,
cool.
And I was only there for 6 months. And then I quickly realized, you know what, HVAC is something that I want to, pursue. And my brother at the time was living in my area, and he was working for an AC company out of Nashville. So I reached out to him and said, hey, this is what I want to do. Do you know if they have any opportunities there? So, and they did. I called up there, got an interview, and the rest is history. So that's kind of how it started, just getting my feet wet. So
that's cool. So you got information from your brother about HVAC?
No, I just asked him if the company he was working for had any opportunities, any openings, and who I could actually call and talk to.
Okay.
So that was one thing that I was aware of, even at a young age. Like, whenever you're calling for someone, you need to know who you're calling for. So that's what I did. I said, hey, who's the install manager? I want to be able to ask for him specifically. And so that way you're not getting the wrong person when you're calling.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I did.
That's neat. So you had already been kind of working on HVAC units and been in the field, and so you were comfortable and you were ready to move forward with installs at that point. Again,
only 6 months. So I just had enough time to understand duct plans, how to assemble the duct work, started learning how to braze at that point. So I was very green, didn't know much, but I was a very hungry kid as far as like learning. So I did not waste any time. I was learning a lot very fast.
And you were 18, or were you still 17?
No, I was about 18 at that point because, let me think here. So yeah, my birthday's in April. I would say that summer, right after I turned 18, is when I started with that company.
Oh, okay.
So,
wow.
Yep.
That's wild. Okay, so next question. How many companies did you work for before you started your own company?
Okay. 3.
3 companies.
I was with 3 companies in a total of 10 years.
3 companies, 10 years. Did you specifically do something different in each company, or how did that roll?
I did.
Okay.
So the first company I was there for, I want to say 5 years.
Okay.
And started out as a residential install helper. I want to say it was less than a year. I got promoted to a lead installer.
Wow.
And then went into commercial installation. Not sure how long it was. And then I got into service work at that point, residential, and then light commercial. And then in that company, they started a division for building automation. So that's basically the control system that HVAC systems have when you're in the commercial world.
Yeah.
So that way they can be monitored from somewhere else.
Right.
And it was very intriguing to me because that dealt with more of like technology at that point. And this was back 2002 is when I started. So anywhere between 2002 and 2007 is when I was working for that company. And at the end of it is when I was doing that building automation. I was just getting started. So that was probably around 2007. So the technology back then was exciting for me.
Oh, it was fresh.
Yeah,
Fresh
absolutely.
all around.
And then my boss, my supervisor for that division, he left and went to another company. So I decided to follow him.
Okay.
Yeah, because I really liked him.
Yeah.
And he was doing the same thing over there.
And he wanted you to go with him as well.
I mean, he did. The problem was with that newer company, it was a much larger company.
Okay.
They already had that division over there. They already had those technicians in that division. So I couldn't just go over there and get a job with what I was already doing, right?
Okay.
So the next best thing was for me to just go over there as just a normal mechanic, a normal service tech.
Okay.
So that's what I did. And I became, or they had a division open, which was new to me, but it was in the commercial world, startup and first year warranty.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool because I went from being a normal service tech where you're on call, every, I forget what it was, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, something like that. And you never knew when you were going to get off work.
Right. You had your own van.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. But your schedule was all over the place.
Okay.
There was nothing like set in stone, like you're working from this time to this time.
Right.
Well, when I started working in that startup and first year warranty division, well, everything was scheduled out. This is all new construction. So 7 to 3:30, no overtime, no being on call.
Wow.
It was fantastic. I loved it.
For sure.
And I thought I was going to get into that building automation division, but there never was an opportunity at that point. They had people in there for a long time. They knew what they were doing, and they didn't need anyone else. So I stayed in that division that I was in, but I loved it. Ended up getting a contract with a local church, which is like 10 minutes down the road, which is now one of my customers, where I spent 20 hours a week there. And it was more maintenance at that point. So they were doing some changes in that company, and they were basically trying to take that division that I was in, the startup and first year warranty, and they were trying to just move it into normal commercial service tech and maintenance.
Right.
And at the time, I was going to school. So I was wanting to become a mechanical engineer. So I was taking night classes. And I had everything scheduled because I knew I got off work at 3:30.
Right.
I could come home, I could shower, do whatever I needed to do, and then drive to the community college by 6 o'clock or 5:30. I don't remember what time it was, but I had a schedule that I could keep to.
Okay.
Well, when they were merging us into the commercial division, they said, well, you're just going to be a normal tech at that point.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't do that. Like I'm in school.
Right.
I'm taking night classes.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing. So they said, well, we have the opportunity where you could be in like the maintenance side in this commercial application, and that's when that started. So, but yeah, long story. I went from that, and then personal reasons, decided to move to South Carolina, and wanted to live by the beach. So wanted to change things up.
Right.
And when I went there, I ended up working for a commercial company there, a very small one, just to kind of get a job. And then I knew that was going to be short term. I'm not counting that one as one of the companies.
Okay. Okay.
I had my eyes set on Johnson Controls. They're a large corporate company that does a lot of things, but I was set on getting into that building automation division. I really loved doing that.
You didn't have the opportunity for that second job.
And I missed
you were
it.
Like, I want to,
Yep.
You want to dive into it.
I wanted to get back into it. I really enjoyed that type of work. Right. So once I got there, I was like on a hunt. I was going to supply houses like you normally would. I'm asking people questions like, hey, Johnson Controls, this and that, like where can I find? And then I would run into some of them. And then, long story short, got an interview with them, got the job, and I'm not sure how long I was in that company before we moved back to Tennessee, and I got a transfer, right? Because they're a nation or a global company.
That's great that you were able to,
Yeah.
you were in that specific job to where you were able to be transferred.
Yep.
Sometimes that doesn't work out, when you're moving states and stuff. So
It took a little bit of time. It wasn't an
Really?
exact like transfer. Like, hey, I'm moving. Can I start next week?
Right.
There were no available positions at that time.
Okay.
So I think it took about 6 months. So again, I came back, and I got to work. So I just went to a local, a company that was really close to the house, and that only serviced my city. So I wasn't all over the place. That's just something that I preferred. But I knew that was just a stepping stone. I was waiting until the Johnson Controls position opened up. And I think it took around 5-6 months maybe.
Wow.
And I finally got that position.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was there maybe 2 or 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. And then I had the itch to start my own company. And that's when that started.
That's wild.
Yep.
So that's really cool how it played out. I've been with you for over a decade, and hearing these details about from job to job, like when you were early on in HVAC and you had started, a lot of it's new to me, the specifics. So it's pretty cool to hear like how you transitioned into each opportunity. So with Johnson Controls, you said you were there for a couple years here back in Tennessee. And before you started your own business, were you dabbling in side jobs at all while you were still working? Okay, so tell me a little bit about that. Like, when did you start going, you know what, I think I'm wanting to, venture off and do my own thing?
So, like a lot of people in the industry, we do a lot of side work.
Yeah. Okay, so it's normal.
Yeah, it's very common. Frowned upon. Really? By most companies, right? For good reasons.
Yeah.
But side work is a great way to make extra money.
Yeah.
And make good money. So that's what I did. I was doing side work for years, and I was building up that clientele that that loved me. And
You're saying for years?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Since I've been doing HVAC, I've been doing side work on some level.
Okay, like
whether it was here and there randomly,
right.
And then as I got older, it became more and more.
Like friend of the family, you would know, or just and they knew you knew HVAC well, and okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then the last few years before I went on my own, I was like, you know what? I think this is what I want to do. So I want it to be legal, and I want it to be legit.
Yeah.
So I got my license, insurance. I got an actual service truck. I basically started a company, but I was just doing it part-time. So I would go work my 7 to 3 o'clock building automation job, and then come home, switch uniforms, hop in the other truck, then go run a couple calls or go do an install on the weekend.
Oh my goodness.
Just whatever was needed.
Yeah, was it the white truck that I met you?
Yep.
Okay.
No.
No. Okay.
That was my second vehicle, I believe.
Oh, I remember you showing me a picture
It was
of
an old Chevy truck with a utility bed on it that used to be an AT&T truck.
AT&T? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I made it my own. I bought it cheap. I think I bought it for like $1,200.
Oh my goodness.
Of course, it had problems. I ended up, putting a new engine in there, but we went with a used one, so I only spent like $2,000, like to have it installed and everything. So, but anyway, that's what I did. I worked on it as like a side business, but it was legit. And I told myself, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing until this side business that I have becomes so like popular or so busy that I cannot juggle the two anymore.
Right.
And then I'm forced to quit my cush job, if you will, right, with benefits and insurance and good pay, to go out on my own full time.
Okay.
So, and then I think it was back in let's see here, 2012, I believe. Yeah, because '02 is when I started the industry. 2012 is when I started my business, like full time, I should say.
Okay.
So that's 10 years, right, of me working for someone else. And I remember, again, having that thought that once my business is just too much and I can't juggle the two anymore, I'm going to go ahead and switch over. Well, I got a big job that came in. It was like a new commercial job. We had to install I think 10 systems, ductwork. There were split units, so it was like line sets. It was everything. It was a lot of work. And I said, this is it.
Yeah.
Like this one job is going to be enough to kickstart, and then I can just continue going from there. And that's what happened.
That's you're like, okay, full time.
Yeah.
Wow. What was that the off Old Nashville Highway? Was that job you were talking about? Okay. All right. I remember you'll like tell me specific place. This is where I used to work, and this is where I'd hang out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The common thing what we do when we're driving down the road. Yeah, I worked on that job. Worked on that house.
You do it with the kids all the time.
Yeah.
We'll be driving and be like, you see those 2 units? I switched those out.
We all do it.
I
It's
know.
funny.
I love it. You were talking about you had gotten your GED. Was that easy for you? Because you had dropped out of high school, right? And so how soon after you dropped out did you get your GED? So
in 2002, that was the first year that Tennessee changed their law, where if you were underage, right, if you were 17 or below, you had to have your parents' permission, first of all, to be able to drop out of high school.
Wow.
And then secondly, you were forced to go to a continuation school to study for the actual test.
Okay.
Right? Because the only way you could drop out is to say, hey, I'm going to go get my GED.
Yeah.
But you couldn't just drop out and say you were going to do it. They put you through that program, got you ready for it, and then you go take the test. Of course, if you pass, you're done, you're good.
Yeah.
And that continuation school obviously is a place where all the kids that got expelled, right, for whatever reason.
Oh my goodness.
Right, the bad kids.
Right, right.
That's where they all were. So, I mean, that was a crazy experience. And at that time, I was 17. I was a senior, right?
Yeah.
Because let me back up a little bit. I was, 6 months before I was supposed to graduate high school? That's when I sat down with my guidance counselor and said, all right, like, give it to me straight. Where am I at? Like, what do I need to do to be able to graduate? Because my first 2 years of high school, I was in California at that time. I skipped pretty much every day, and I failed every class.
Business owner here, okay?
So I failed every class my first 2 years, and then when I moved to Tennessee, that's when things changed. I actually started applying myself, got good grades, passed everything.
Junior year?
Junior and into my senior year.
Okay, right.
And then the guidance counselor was like, well, you failed everything your first 2 years, so you have to make up that amount. Yeah. You have to go 2 more years of high school.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, I'm going to be 20 years old when I graduate high school? There's no way.
Yeah.
Like, what are my other options? And that's when they said, well, you can drop out with your parents' permission, and you can get a GED. So that's what I did.
That's wild.
And going back to your question, I was in that continuation school, and the next opportunity to take the test, I think, was about a month.
Okay.
So I was in there for about a month.
Okay.
And it was horrible. Horrible. All these kids that just thought they were so badass, and causing trouble, and it was just,
getting
silly.
expelled from school, that's not what happened to you. You were like, I'm dropping out.
Yep.
I'm just trying to
And I'm here to focus because I have a goal.
Yeah.
All these other kids are just messing around, right?
And they're with a bunch of delinquents.
Yeah, exactly. So it was miserable for me.
Crazy.
And they were all younger kids.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was just a situation
What
that
an
I had
experience.
to deal with. So I was very glad that when the first test came available, I went and took it. And I forget what it was, but apparently I ranked super high in the percentage within Tennessee or something like that.
Goodness.
So anyway, I passed it with flying colors, and I was super excited.
Yes,
Super
look
excited.
at you.
I'll never forget the day that I found out, because you don't know right away that you passed. After I took the test, I went down to down to Texas to visit my brother. He was living there at that time.
Okay.
And I was down there for probably about a week, and I remember my parents calling me and said that we got your certificate in the mail, that, you know, you passed and you got your GED, like you're done with school now, dude.
Yeah.
I was on cloud nine.
You
I was
knew,
so happy.
you remember where you were, all
Yep,
of it.
yep.
That's awesome.
I remember the beer that I was drinking, even though I was underage.
That's awesome.
I just remember all the details
Yeah.
because it was just such a good moment in my life. I felt like
That
I'm
was a big
an adult.
accomplishment.
Like I'm ready to go now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm
Right.
ready to go out and go do, because even at that time, I already moved out.
Yeah.
I moved out of the house at 17.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I was
Wow.
already living with roommates, even though I wasn't even on the lease because I couldn't be. I was too
right.
young. So anyway, it was an amazing time. I'll never forget that.
I love hearing your drive at such a young age.
Yep.
You know, and you're like, okay, well, all right, I'm not spending 2 more years in high school. Okay, if my option is to drop out, I'm dropping out. Okay, I'm going to get my GED, and of course, you passed it with flying colors, and you were like, okay, I'm ready to move forward. I know what I want to do. You want to grind. You want to figure out, okay, what's next?
Yep.
You know, you didn't want to just sit and just like let life pass you by. You were like,
I was motivated.
it's a whole new world out there. You had this motivation and drive
Yep.
about you. I love that.
Oh,
And-
I was going to say, I could probably credit my parents for that.
yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You know, both my parents, they're go-getters. They're
Hard workers,
not
huh?
lazy by any means. You know, my parents were self-employed, right? My whole childhood, they owned a painting company. My mom was the accountant, like, you know, so they were hard workers too. And I
Yes.
grew up seeing that. So,
I love it.
but yeah, I was not messing around. I was ready to move forward.
For sure. That is so cool to hear. That's neat. Okay, so we'll move on. Let's see here. Next question. Now that you own your own business, what would you say is unique about your company? Or should I say, has set you apart from other HVAC businesses?
Well, I guess the simple answer would be the small details. I've always focused on what I would think are the elementary level fundamental things that I think a lot of people just bypass.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of us are good at what we do as far as working on the equipment, but owning a business is much more than that, right? It's all about building relationships.
Yes, it is.
And how do you do that? How do you build really good, solid relationships, one after another, after another, after another, right? There's consistency there. And so for me, again, growing up with my dad and helping him in his business, I remember going to Home Depot and my dad would be just talking to everyone. Just small talk.
Yeah.
Right? Not like he was trying to sell them anything. It was just small talk. And then everyone knew him. Everyone, like, so we couldn't go anywhere because everyone wanted to chit chat with him and, you know, have it just, you know, catch up with him. But that created people trusting him and
Yes.
wanted him to come out and do the work in their homes. Right? That's what I saw. So I just applied the same thing within my business starting out. I kept things simple. I, you know, made sure my pricing was fair. And then just basically treating my customers like their family. Answering the phone when you're supposed to, right? Having good, clear communication with them. If you mess up, just own it and go fix it. You know how many times I messed up? A lot.
And you didn't charge.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, I would do right by them.
Right.
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 And it's amazing.
trust.
Like you can mess up. You could, you know, not glue a fitting in an attic, and the water comes down, ruins their whole ceiling. Like that's a bad day for your customer.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But if you respond to it in a proper way, where you're like, hey, I am so sorry. Like that, you know, that's my fault. We're going to be there. We're going to handle it. We're going to take care of it. Like now, kind of thing. Well, that's all they really need. That's all they want, that reassurance of that it's going to be taken care of. And even though they'll be mad on the phone And then when I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm going to be there in 30 minutes, whatever. We're going to get this taken care of. Like immediately it defuses them.
They know that they're a priority.
Yeah. And they start to feel better immediately.
Right.
So that's just a good example of like how I try to treat my customers. And not only that, but like the simple things. Just picking up your trash, not leaving anything behind.
Yeah.
Right? Leaving your work area cleaner than you found it.
You told me that's what your dad taught you.
Yep.
I remember.
It's small things. It's like, it's not rocket science by any means. People need to feel comfortable. They need to trust other people, right? Especially in residential, when you're going into their home, into their personal space.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, business is just relationships.
It's so valuable.
Yeah.
Building those relationships are so valuable. That's what people want. That's what I want. When we hire companies, it's the same way for me. Like when we
I want the same guy coming back.
Right. At my house, I'm like, I'm trusting you with my space and to do things right, to know your profession basically. And
That's right.
It seems like it's few and far between sometimes, but it is very valuable, and I love that you said that relationships, because as a customer, the priority, when you feel like you're a priority to a company, like you're going to stick with these people.
Yeah.
And that's why, since I've known you and running this company, I've seen it. People, they want you. They want you because they trust you and they trust that you'll make them a priority and do quality work for them as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And as I got older, I chalked it up to just serving people well.
Yeah.
And however way you can. If that's kind of going beyond what you would normally do, like if you find something in their crawl space, it's not part of your job description, but you care about the customer, so you let them know, or maybe you take care of it if it's something small, right? Just things like that. It's not hard. No. Honestly, like if you just do those basic things, it's going to take a little time, but you're going to be so busy, you're going to have more work than you can handle.
That's it.
It's really that simple. And then after that, it's, managing your money and things like that. But as far as, what makes me stand out is having that servant heart, and then also truly caring about my customers. That comes out.
Right.
Like just sitting and having a conversation with them. Like once you get to know someone, or even when you don't know them yet, in order to get to know them, is not rushing in and out of that call.
Right.
Just take an extra 5 minutes. It's not too long, right? Even if you're really busy. Take 5 minutes, slow down, talk to them. Not about their problems with AC or heat, but just talk to them, like pay attention. Their kids, their dog.
They feel you care.
Yeah, just be present with them for a moment and let them know how much you appreciate them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right? And then boom, guess what? You just give them all the fuzzy feelings when you leave, and they're going to tell all their friends the same thing.
Yeah. You've been to so many calls even around, right? Like your normal clients, and then you get the calls from all the neighbors, right? And so you're in that neighborhood as well, which is great. You're just so trustworthy. I think that's it right there. You nailed it. And one last question to close out. What advice would you give someone who is looking to start an HVAC business?
To start their own business. The first thing would be you need to learn business, right? Because more than likely you know HVAC already, the industry. Maybe you're a tech or an installer and you want to start your own, which is great. What you may not know is the business side of things. So I would, every state is different. In Tennessee, to get your mechanical license, you actually, part of that test that you had to take was a business test. So it's important, right? You need to know how to run an actual business behind the scenes that has nothing to do with fixing an air conditioner. You need to know your finances. You need to have a business plan. Like, how do you want your business to be operated? Yeah. Every business is different, right? Some do residential only, some do commercial only, some only do maintenance, some only do installation. So it's like, you need to figure out what you want to do and don't think that you have to have everything all figured out at the beginning, because you might change your mind, and that's fine. But at least have a starting plan, right? Of what does your business look like? Visualize like what it looks like, the vibe of it, the feel of it, like write it all out. Like you're designing it to give to someone to go make for you, right?
Yeah.
You need to figure all that out. And then, you know, beyond that, it's just about building relationships at that point.
That's good information.
So once you figured out the type of business that you want to have, just start getting out there. And, you know, if you have a budget for advertising, just, you know, be cautious of that, because a lot of people want to dump a lot of money into advertising and they're not even ready for it yet, right? They haven't built up that infrastructure to where if the phone starts to ring, they can actually handle the work, right? So like, don't try to jump ahead of the steps. Take your time, be patient. This is a marathon, right? So let's you know, do our due diligence. Let's think about what we're going to be doing here. Let's plan it. And then, you know, you can be doing all that while you're doing those side jobs, right? And then start figuring out like your pricing, all the different softwares that you're going to be using to help you run your business. Find a bookkeeper, right? Those sorts of things, to where you are starting off on the right foot and you're not just chasing your tail. I didn't do that. I just jumped right into it and was like, I know the work. I know how to, like, you know, deal with people and you know, create relationships. So I'm just going to go.
Right.
And there was a lot of learning pains for me because
oh my
of that.
Goodness. But you've learned so much, so now we can share with others. That you're
for sure, right? I mean, obviously, learning and going through those struggles is what allows me to learn. But I could have learned the same amount probably and not having to struggle so much for so long, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Because I didn't have any. There wasn't YouTube, right? I didn't have you know, someone that, like a mentor that I could go sit down and talk to and say, hey, this is what I want to do. Like, what are the first few steps here, right? So, school of hard knocks.
Man.
But anyway, to end that would be, once you figured out what you want to do and how you want to do it, you've got to put the boots on the ground and you got to start doing. You can be up in your head and thinking about what you need to do and overanalyzing everything all the time. But the reality is you have to learn by doing. So get your plan, write it out. Shouldn't take you very long. You can easily do that in a day. Make a game plan of what you want to do and how you want to do it, and then start. Just start. Because once you get the ball rolling, then you'll start figuring out all the details and how you want to do things.
Opportunities will open up.
Yeah.
That's it.
You got to start, though.
Right. Such great information. This was awesome. I loved hearing. I know it was so much fun, babe. It was. I loved hearing all the details and just all the info. You know, it's great. I hope this is really going to help someone.
I hope so too.
Definitely.
Yeah. So again, guys, if you think this is a style of video that you want to see more of, where we just kind of sit down and maybe cover different topics, let us know in the comments, because I know she would love to be involved. I would love for her to be involved. And, you know, this is a good way to get a lot more information out, like you were, you know, touching on earlier, that I normally wouldn't get out in a normal video. So, yeah, if there are topics or things that you guys want to hear that I can go like on a deep dive, let us know in the comment section. I'd be glad to check those out and just go from there.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Give your thumbs up if you like what we're doing. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Until next time, we'll see you later. Good job, babe.
That was great.